Welcome to the Half-Blood Report.
Here we discuss Percy Jackson news, interviews, and all things Riordan. I'm Samuel, your co-host.
And I'm Diego, your other co-host. And this week, we have a very special guest for all of you.
Yep, we will be interviewing Kristin Stokes, who played Annabeth in the Lightning Thief musical. Kristin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you on. Obviously, Annabeth in the Lightning Thief, the musical, but we wanted to ask about before the musical. What had been your experience with the Lightning Thief book if you had read it before?
Great question. It was zero. I had heard, I did not see the movies, which honestly, I still haven't seen the movies, and that has been a blessing. I had the movies were somewhere in my mind, in the background, they happened. But when I got the audition, I didn't even know what I was auditioning for. They mumbled the name on I got a voice message on my phone. It was very mysterious. I was like, who is contacting me for this audition? But as an actor, you're like, oh my God, an audition. Okay, great. You're just going to make me an appointment? Sounds good. And I couldn't really hear. I'm like, what was the show that they said? And I was like, I've never even heard of this show. It must be a new show, which is something I do a lot. That's kind of the main thing that I do as an actress is I work on new works, new material, new shows. And so it didn't bother me that I was like, I don't know what this is. I didn't hear it. And even waiting to go in to my audition because they were like, oh yeah, it's based on a book. And literally the amount, how big this project is, the amount of info I was given and how low key chill everyone was is now astonishing. If I would have known what I was going in for, that I was like, no, this is Percy Jackson. You don't understand. You're going for Annabeth. Oh my God. If I would have had that pressure, I don't know if I would have gotten it. Maybe I would have bombed. I have no idea, but I had no idea what I was going in for. And luckily, before I went in, the director ran past me and I was like, oh, Steven, because I had worked with him before. And I was like, oh, that's how I must have got the audition. Literally still did not know why I was there. And honestly, thank goodness I saw him because the script that I was going in to do the lines for the audition was the Medusa scene, but it didn't say Medusa, it said Auntie M. And I was like, is this a weird Wizard of Oz crossover? What is this? And he's like, Kristin, you're the daughter of Athena, you're really smart, you're really tough, and you have a dry sense of humor. I'll see you in there. And I was like, what? And I was like, okay, I'm looking at this script a whole lot different. And then they're like, Kristin, we're ready to see you. And I was like, okay. But just had to listen to what Steven, the director, said. And I went in and also, you got to trust that people are calling you in because they already kind of see you as this part. They saw something within me that they're like, she's already kind of like this. Let's get her in here. So thank God. And then after I got the part, now since I've read the entire book series and I've read, The Lightning Thief a number of times and, I went deep then afterwards and I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, I think this kind of leads us up into our next question, which is how would you compare yourself to Annabeth?
We have a lot of similarities and Annabeth's a little bit, she's more brave in showing some of these characteristics that I also identify with her. But, I think we both see the strategy 10 moves before. We are mentally chess players, her and I. We see what needs to happen. And I have maybe a little bit more patience, but Annabeth is no, don't you all see? It's this, and this. Hello, I'm right. Let's just follow me. Let's go. Sometimes I'm like that. Sometimes I'm okay. And I'll guide the situation a little bit more than she would. But I don't know, that capture the flag type of stuff where she like uses Percy as like bait and like doesn't tell him, that's probably something I would do. TBH. TBH. Sorry. I think I was super smart. Sorry about it.
That's right.
But yeah, she's awesome. And also, I mean, I know she's from Virginia originally, and then her, her dad and stepmom and all them moved to the San Francisco Bay Area, but that's where I'm originally from, so that's kind of cool. She has like a thing with like spiders following her around. Samesies. Spiders follow me. And although I'm not as deathly afraid of them as like she is, and we're both just we're like tough broads. We stand our ground. It can be taken as like a little stubborn, but also like, who cares? That's kind of how I feel.
That is a very good answer.
Thank you.
And obviously, it's based on a book, The Lightning Thief, and with such a big fandom, how do you make sure to stay true to the book, while still providing your own interpretation of who the character is?
Great question. I think for me, and other people and actors have a different process. For me, I just want to get into the world of Percy Jackson. And that's why I was so, absorbed in the books and reading The Lightning Thief a couple of times and looking up fan art and be like, what is everyone's vision of her? I'm not the first person to come to Annabeth and like have a vision of like who she is. And so it's taking I guess you would call like the facts of how Annabeth acts throughout the entire series and kind of noticing her behavior and the way she uniquely reacts to situations. And that's kind of what every actor's job is like, how is this person uniquely reacting to this situation? Does it align with how I would react, or is that different? Do I need to kind of do a little bit of like code switching basically to react in a certain way that's going to be more like this character? And then also, looking and researching what everyone else has kind of found with Annabeth and the characteristics that they have all noticed and the similarities in that,
Mhm.
and then finding that within myself. And there was like some things that were easy for me, and then that there were some things that were more of a journey for me. And so that was kind of really cool. And also like, I can only help but be myself. It's not like I can fully transform into a completely different person. So my personal experiences as Kristin is always going to influence the lens in which I look at Annabeth. So the only thing I can do is just like try to like clean my Kristin glass as much as possible so I can see Annabeth as clearly as possible and as objectively.
Yeah.
That is very interesting process.
Yeah.
I would wonder, you mentioned earlier that like going into the audition, you had to assume that they probably already like how we're thinking about how you would relate to the character. And so I'm wondering how would Annabeth compare to other roles you've played?
Ooh, Annabeth is like the most secure person I've played. Annabeth, and this was something that I, as a person, had to work on. This was kind of one of my biggest things in Annabeth that I had to, and thank God I had years to kind of work on this and develop this. But, Annabeth does not care if she's likable. Annabeth is not her main objective as a person and as a girl, which is huge. Her main concern is not being likable. And I attribute that to her mom being Athena. And I also attribute that to her coming to Camp Half-Blood so young, when she's like, what, 6, 7? And so she didn't grow up in a world where girls have to be likable. That's kind of like the number one thing you're trained to be. And that was hard. That was hard for me to see in myself because I couldn't see it. It's like a blind spot, you know. You're like, you grow up and you're like, of course, why wouldn't you want people to like you? And especially as an actor, you want people to identify with your character. So how are you going to do that? You're going to be likable, you're going to be charming, you want people to be on your side. And so as opposed to like every other character I've played, Annabeth, she's just so secure in herself. And of course, she has insecurities. And of course, she wants to prove herself. I think that's different, wanting to prove yourself and be the best, and like having her have that like inner fight and grit is different than having your objective just be like likable, you know. And also first character, I think I I could be wrong. I guess maybe in Doubt. I played Sister James in Doubt. Her and Sister James, those are the only two roles I've played with. There is has never been like a love interest or a love objective. And that is also a huge part of being female in theater or like in anything, you know. Guys get to kind of like have their own objective, and like, oh yeah, I'm maybe at the end like this person who has had a crush on them, like they're like they notice them. That's the thing. At the end they're like, oh, and now I've noticed you. Where the female is usually like, oh, the whole time I wish they noticed me, let me do all these things, or da, 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 da. It's such a huge part of their objective, and that was not present at all in Annabeth. If anything, it's like an
The
awesome
opposite.
friendship. Yeah, exactly. It's the opposite. She's like, who are you? Why are you coming into camp and you don't know anything, and you are a seaweed brain, and why are you taking my quest and all this stuff? And then at the end it's kind of like, okay, they decide to like work together and be friends and like form an alliance, and that's awesome. So that's kind of like the biggest difference. And I also got to like, are you kidding me, be like a superhero and like fight on stage and like wield a staff and like a knife and just like, come on, it was so cool. I haven't gotten to do that on stage either.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's more like Percy being like, will the girl of my literal dreams realize me?
Exactly. He's the one that is like, dream girl. And she's like, you're drooling. Who are you?
Yeah, definitely. That was such a great answer. The Lightning Thief has a lot of different songs and a lot of different scenes. Which of those is your favorite to perform on stage, and has it changed over time as the play has evolved?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say night to night it will change. I think hands down, and I think almost everyone in the company agrees, the finale, Bring on the Monsters, is the most fun. It is so fun. You've like just completed the show. Everyone's just like sweating because it is, I mean, like, okay, yeah, we're playing like demigods and goddesses, but like in order to get through this show, the energy and the fighting and the belting, the songs are crazy. They're crazy high. They're nonstop. You're like rock belting the entire time. You're running around on stage. You're like, wow, let me fight this thing. You're climbing up and down scaffolding. You're running around backstage doing like a million costume changes. And then we get to Bring on the Monsters. And it's just such a rock anthem. And everyone's like, we did it. We did it. We finished the show. That's kind of like the feeling. And it's just so, I don't know. It's so uplifting. It's so fun to sing. We're all on stage together. And it's just feels like that call to battle. And like, no matter how tired we are by the end of the show, as soon as that like bum 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 bum, and Chris is like, there's gonna be a fight. We're all like, yeah, let's do it. It's like gets you hyped up. But I don't know. I love all the songs. They're so fun. I love Put You in Your Place. Sarah Beth and I getting to sing just like a rock ballad, and we're fighting. Like, if you got to see us on stage, it's already a lot to be singing that high and singing that song, and then you're like, oh, and ps they're like doing cartwheels and like
Yeah, you
wielding
guys were
double
totally like
swords and
doing all sorts of stuff on that stage.
absolutely. And then meanwhile we're like like crazy, like Axl Rose. We're like, what are you doing? Like, it's absolute insanity, but like so fun.
Yeah, I mean, what's the choreography like, the training for that?
It's like being in boot camp. It's a lot. It's
That
a
sounds less
lot.
fun.
It's fun, and the first time we did it, when we were kind of just developing the show, we had a different choreographer, Sam Pinkleton, who's brilliant, also a Broadway choreographer. I think Sam did Natasha Pierre, Amelie. He's fantastic. But we were literally
Mm.
doing like boot camp aerobics and put you in your place. Like we were doing like jumping jacks, get on the floor, plank, push-ups, like legit workout stuff. And we were like, I mean, I was buff after that version of Lightning Thief. I was like doing like pull-ups in the corner. It was like very Terminator 2. But it's high energy. Always like the first week back in rehearsal, everyone's like walking like robots because we're all like so sore, and and everyone on the show is like working out and stretching and also taking time to recover. Recovery is such a huge part of the show. I mean, for any Broadway show, but
Mm.
especially this one, time to let your body rest and recover like an athlete, because you're about to get out on that stage and do it probably like 2 times the next day.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't sound great.
I mean, it's like being at Camp Half-Blood and like actually training. That's why I was like, this is not pretend right now. We're all really doing all this. And there's only 6, 7 of us on stage. So it's not like it's like us and then we're like, and take it away, background dancers. It's like, no, everyone is doing this. Everyone is sweating and running around and doing pull-ups.
You're just
you are
missing
the background
the
dancers.
lava wall backstage.
Exactly. Oh, lava wall. That used to be in the show and it was so funny, and now it's not.
in the original one?
When we did the 1 hour version, there was a completely different song. Now you only get like 2 seconds of it. It's like when Brenner sings their sign, you'll see their sign, ba 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 ba. That used to be like a whole song, and it was like introducing Percy to camp. And there was a moment when he was like, watch out for that lava wall, and Percy had already backed up into it, and he's like, ah, hi, and like grabbed his butt and like ran around. It was funny.
What about the bonus track? Any songs from that are fun?
Oh my goodness. I mean, Try. I'm like, why wasn't that song in the show, Rob? Love that song. That's like such an amazing song. And that song, with the bonus tracks, some of those songs like Pick a Side, they did work on for like a few rehearsals and then decided we can't, it's not going to make the cut. We have to rearrange the story a little bit, because that's the thing, especially working from a book.
Yeah.
You can't put everything into it, and so you have to be really smart about what pieces of the story you can cut and what has to be in there. And okay, well, how if we don't have the Iris message and the the spiders in the tunnel of love, and we don't have if we don't have those things, like how does the story get connected and stuff like that. And so anyway, Pick a Side, I think was maybe the most developed out of those. In the Same Boat was from the 1 hour version that we kept for a long time in the 2 hour, and then it eventually got replaced with
Drive and
Drive.
DOA. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
with
love both
Drive.
those songs so much, but I mean, We're All in the Same Boat is so good.
I know, we love that song so much. We were really sad once it was gone. We were like, okay, but then Rob gave us Drive, and we're like, okay, we're fine again. We love it. That's the
Never
thing,
mind.
Rob, we love this song too. That's the thing. Rob is like so. He would like literally write a song, come in the next day after writing a song for like less than like 10 hours, and it'd be amazing. It would be like Pick a Side, and then we'd sing through it and be like, no, we can't do it because it won't fit, and then just easily be like, okay, I guess there goes all that work and we can't use it. And we're like, what? And I created something like that, I'd be like, you guys don't like my song? What do you mean? Like, He's so talented and so quick to write just like amazing songs. And then of course Littlest Minotaur,
Oh, yes.
the greatest song in this that was never in the show.
Can you tell us a bit about that for maybe people who haven't heard the
Yeah,
story?
yeah. So the Littlest Minotaur, this is like that the very first like 2 week workshop of the Lightning Thief that we did. This is like what I got from that audition where I didn't know what I was doing. This is what I was actually auditioning for, which was it was just a 2 week workshop. And that's the other thing. It's not like when I auditioned, it's like, and this is a Broadway show and it's going and you're going to be on tour and you're going to win awards and create an album. No, this was like so low stakes. It was just another, because shows take years and years to develop. And there's a process of workshopping it, and you're just like in the studio and you're like, how do we even get this on its feet? What are the elements of the story that work and don't work? Okay, let's cut this, blah, 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 blah. And so that the first 2 week thing I did was just this workshop, and it was in a rehearsal studio, and we were just trying to figure out like, okay, how do you turn a guy from a wheelchair into a horse? Like, how do you do that in like 2 seconds? How do you do that? How do you create a minotaur on stage, and especially with something that initially was created for, you know was it always 7 people? Yeah, 7 people, and they all had to be in a van and travel around with a set that can also fit in that same van, so it's like very minimal. And it's like, how do you do this without the Disney magic? So to create the Minotaur, it was me, the guy who played Luke, and the guy who played, I guess, Brunner. We decide as one of the like ways we decided to make the Minotaur, they were like two guys like standing one in front of the other, and then I climbed on top of their shoulders, and like half of me was sitting on one of their shoulders, and then the front part of me, my hands were arched over and reaching on top of the other guy's shoulders, so it was like I was like hunched over, and to create this big larger than life thing, and then I had to be a scary minotaur. And I went in. I don't know what everyone else's problem was, but I was roaring. I was snarling. I even brought in this like big fuzzy llama hat to be like, maybe this looks more minotaur. And no one would stop laughing at me. Everyone was like, you are ridiculous. And then the most ridiculous part was then when I had to get off of these two like 6 foot tall guys, and it'd be like me, I'm like 5'3", and I'd be like beep, dee, and then like come off, and they were like, oh my God, who is this like little minotaur with her two big brothers and blah blah blah. And then Rob came in the next day. He's like, I kind of wrote this song last night, and we were laughing, and then we were adding on to it, and then that was it. And then like every couple of like versions of the show, as it grew and grew, we never forgot the Littlest Minotaur, and we'd always like break it out during one of the 10-minute breaks or something like that. So then when we did the album release concert, Rob was like, do you want to do Littlest Minotaur? And I was like, yeah, let's do it, because I think he wanted to also like showcase some cut songs. And anyway, so then it was recorded. Everyone loved it from the fandom, as they should. It's hilarious. And then he was like, let's put it on the album, which is just the most ridiculous extra thing for basically what's an inside joke for like 2 seconds of the show back in the day. So
that's pretty funny. Like, now it's an album.
Now it's on the album. And like me literally going roar like the Widowless War, was because that was me just trying my darndest to be scary. And they're like, you just can't do it, Kristin. Sorry. You're not scary. You're adorable.
Yeah.
You're
Um,
adorable.
Speaking of workshops and things to get you ready for an audition,
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit more about your classes?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to be teaching at TheaterWorks USA. They have something called the TheaterWorks Academy, and I'm super stoked to
Mhm.
be teaching this class that's all about auditioning. Because guess what? That's what, if you are acting, if you're auditioning for your, school play or college or anything outside, everyone has to audition. I don't care where you are in your level of your career, professionalism, or anything like that. Everyone has to audition. And also, auditioning is basically like a job interview, or at best, you have to walk into a room full of strangers and showcase who you are and feel grounded. And I'm like, I do that every day of my life. I do that walking into the bodega on the corner, like that is just such a skill that I don't know, I feel like every person needs. But any hoodle. It starts May 8th. It's 5 weeks. We're gonna get into, kind of the basics of auditioning, because I feel like also, you know, everyone trains to like be in a show or how do you do this, but like everyone just kind of gets thrown into the audition world and they're like, good luck. This is what, and so we're going to be talking about kind of like what's the etiquette, what you should expect. We're going to be looking at, song material, how to pick a really great audition cut that showcases you, that you feel amazing about. Just so like when you walk into that audition room, you do get to feel that grounded, calm, secure self. And if they throw something at you like, oh, P.S., you're the daughter of Athena, go, I'll see you in there, you're grounded enough to be like, okay, I got this. I can do this. So that's, and I'm sure there's gonna be like tons of audition stories, tons of laws. So it's gonna be fun.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about like how it's going to be structured?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's gonna be, because it's 5 weeks, it's kind of a short amount of time.
Mm.
We'll first, just be kind of talking about where everyone's at. How I like to really start off with how everyone feels about auditioning, and really just like air it out. It's time to air it out. Everyone has like a little bit of trauma, a little bit of like the scaries with auditioning, and it's okay. And it's like, I want us all to find community in these stories of being like, oh, because I feel like the number one thing is like people feel alone and feeling like, oh God, it's an audition. No, everyone feels like that. And also, I think the biggest kind of thing I can say and that we're going to work on is like, when you walk into that room, I know it feels like you're being judged, but you're not. You're actually the answer to their problem. Their problem is they are looking for someone for this role. They're not there to literally sit there and be like, what are you wearing? Oh, you sounded flat there. Oh, yeah, this was this. Oh, blah, blah, blah. That's not what they're doing. They're like, how is this person right for what I'm looking for? Are they the answer to my problem? And so it's going to be a lot about kind of changing that mindset, and going into like our psychology and feelings about it, and just like very like bare bones. I'm going to see what you already have as far as audition material. Is that right for you? Are you singing things that are maybe like a little bit too old for you? Or, maybe you're coming in thinking you're just like the dumpy best friend, when really I'm like, no, when you come in, you lead. I see you as the leading hero, and that's, are you doing yourself a disservice by how you see yourself versus how you feel on the inside versus how other people see you? And so you're going to walk away with audition songs and cuts, and then we're also going to be working on how to act the song and also how to act a short audition cut. And so
Yeah,
there's
because you
like
don't
a
have all of that source material.
exactly.
You're working with a limited script.
Exactly. You're like, okay, this is it. I got 32 bars. I have a minute to really present myself. And like, honestly, sometimes by the time the minute is done, you're like, oh, now I feel ready and grounded. And it's like, nope, that was the end.
Whatever projects do you have upcoming?
Let's see. Well, I kind of do my own little, it's not a podcast, but I have like an Instagram live that I do every Saturday. I'll be doing it in an hour today. It's called Chitty Chat because my Instagram name is Chitty Balone. And so I've been doing this thing every Saturday. When did I start? I think in January.
Oh wow.
And just a way for me to, and it's on Instagram Live, and it's just a way to connect with, my friends, the Broadway community, and just kind of sit down and talk and see where the conversation goes. I talk to them about their careers and what kind of excites them and what they've been doing over the pandemic. And so that's kind of a project that I've been working on. And otherwise, that's kind of it. I've been doing a lot of teaching, which has been really fun because, as you're all aware, there is no theater work, so there are no upcoming projects. There is nothing going on. No word of like when things are going to officially open back up. So I've been kind of, keeping the creativity alive in my own way, playing guitar and teaching. Honestly, it's so creative for me and really fun and fulfilling. And I just love, working with everyone. It's really great. So
Harnessing that pandemic time to teach yourself guitar.
that's right. Exactly.
You'll come back and they ask you to audition for something and you're like,
I'll be like,
actually,
oh, this tasty lick.
that's the person we want. You got it.
You got it. Exactly.
This may be more of a hypothetical question now. Since obviously, as you've mentioned, theater isn't really going on. But what other Broadway shows would you like to perform in at sometime in the future? Like if you could pick a Broadway show, what would it be and why?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I really like Waitress. I think that's
Oh,
a really great show. I love Hades Town. Get into it. Hades Town is
that's pretty
so awesome.
nearby.
Yeah, they were right across the street from us. Hello. Hop on over to the God Train. Yeah, Hades Town. 6 is pretty cool. I actually, the day of the shutdown / the day of 6's opening, I had an audition for 6, so
Oh
we'll
no.
see. It was like, no, never again. It's never happening.
And you'll never know.
Never know. But yeah, and then like I said, I love doing brand new shows. That's kind of my favorite thing is getting to put my stamp on a character first and get to develop it and get inside of it. And I love the creative process, which is also why I like teaching so much. So there's also, I'm sure, tons and tons of shows that are being written right now, and I can't wait to get my hands on them.
Oh,
Wow.
that's awesome.
You've already kind of addressed this, so we'll put it in a little bit of a two-part question to wrap up the interview. But what steps led you to get your role in the show? What advice would you give to somebody who wants to make their Broadway debut? And what was your first role in a play slash what was your high school theater experience?
Oh my gosh, so many questions. That's
Yeah,
not
I
one
know.
wrap-up question. That was like 5. Okay, I'll do my best. Let's see. My first show was when I was 9 years old. It was a musical called Working. It was at my local college, and they had a kids part in it. And so I went and auditioned with my mom because my mom wanted to audition, and she was like, because my mom did theater when she was in high school and college, and then she kind of took a break, and And then she wanted to get back into it, but she was like, I'm a little scared to audition. This is what I'm saying. Everyone's scared. And she's like, Kristin, come with me. And so I was like, okay, sure. Blah, 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 blah. I'm 9 years old. I'm fearless. You know. So that was awesome. That was kind of my first experience. And then that was it. I'm like, oh, you can be an adult and like do this for your life. I'm in. Done. Didn't question it again. I was like, I'm 9. I know what I'm doing with my life. Done. And let's see, my high school drama experience, you know, we, the school I went to was really academic. That was kind of their main focus. And I feel like a lot of schools are like that now. The arts programming and a lot of schools get cut. And ours, we had one, but it's not like we had like a lot of funding. Some high schools have like a really amazing arts program and they're there to help you figure out where you're going to go to college, and we're going to the Shakespeare competition and blah, blah, blah. And like, we got to do that. I had a fun time, but you know, it was very like what we, the students, made it, as opposed to, you know, having the entire school or the district be supportive of our art. So but I had a great group of friends. We called ourselves the drama gnomes or the gnomies. We'd always be in the drama room. And they're just some of my lifelong friends still. And then also I was doing theater outside of high school. I did I was doing professional theater by the time I was 14 years old.
Oh, wow.
And so I kind of was already auditioning around, and just because I loved it. I loved it so much. I was like, yeah, I want to do more shows. I want to be around people who do this for their life, so I can kind of absorb that and absorb like,
their knowledge.
Exactly. And watch them from the wings and be like, what are they doing and how are they doing that and blah, blah, blah. Obsessed. And then as far as like getting to Broadway and advice and all that kind of stuff, you know,
Yeah.
I don't think you can really plan for Broadway. You can kind of, I think you can have it as your goal, but then you can't, I don't know. I think it's a combination of knowing what you want and working towards it, right, in the best way that you can, and taking the opportunities that become available to you. And also, you know, honing in on what it is specifically that you want. You know, what are the things you like to do? Because like I said, I love doing new material. And that was something that I just found myself in that community of people who always do new works and new plays. And also I was like, yeah, I'd love to get on Broadway. That's the top, that's the top of the top. Of course I want to do that. But when I auditioned for The Lightning Thief, if I would have been, I don't know, close-minded and been like, no, I'm only doing shows that are going to Broadway, I'm only doing this certain type of thing, I would have missed my opportunity, because I did that show because I was having the most fun. I loved the people I was working with. I loved the story. I loved creating a new character. And that, I would say, even more than Broadway, is more important to me, is to believe in the work that I'm doing, to have fun, and to be around good people. Because it's not worth it if you're around people who are just like bitter and negative and are like, I don't want it. I deserve to be here. I deserve to be on Broadway. No one deserves anything. Just come to the table, come prepared, be a good person, and be ready to create and pitch in and participate. This is my 2 cents. And, you know, and because there was no trajectory to get to Broadway when we started Lightning Thief. It was always a surprise. We always made the show for the venue and like what it was supposed to be. Like first it was, you know, this 2-week thing. Then it was like a 1-hour show that we had to figure out how it would tour for other actors. It wasn't even for us. We were like the guinea pigs, you know? And then it was off Broadway and we're like, oh, cool, the 1-hour version. And then they developed it into the 2-hour version off Broadway. And then we got to do an album. And then we were nominated for a Drama Desk Award. And we're like, when did this happen? And then we got the national tour. And then literally the week we were going to close the national tour, we were surprised with phone calls that we were going to Broadway. And it was out of control. And that was not something I could have told you was going to happen. And so, I couldn't have predicted it or planned it. And by following, when you just follow your inner compass, you're going to be led the right way.
Wow, that is some fantastic advice for those actors looking to get their
which they can get more
Broadway
of in your
debut.
class.
Yeah, aha.
Thank you. Get more of that advice. Because also, this is the other thing I want to say too, real quick, is like, I want to say that, like, I also am in this group of people that, like, if you're young and you want to do theater, you're like, oh, well, I'm going to do Broadway. And it's kind of like, that's the only thing to shoot for. I think us as people in a society where we look at things like a ladder of success and what's the peak of the ladder and how do I get there? And for theater, it's like Broadway. But I also want to say that, like, the ladder is imaginary and you should create your own ladder, so to speak, and know what your version of success is for you, because that's how you are going to be the most happy. And if that's Broadway, awesome. But if that's also like, I want to be working nonstop and travel the world, that's an amazing level of success. Are you kidding me? You could never be on Broadway and be working constantly and traveling. And that, if that's your level of success, then, like, you are winning. Or like, I only want to be helping my community and telling the stories of my community and uplifting my community. And, like, actually that means I think I want to be a playwright instead, even though I started off as an actor. Because I think that's kind of the most immediate in, is to, like, be an actor on stage, or like, oh, I guess I'm not, like, energetic, so I'm going to dress in black and be crew. Like that. I feel like that's kind of the two options. And it's like, there's so many things you can do in theater and to create theater. And there's so many different versions of what success is, And so, and then also it alleviates the pressure that if you don't find yourself in a way or a track where you see yourself getting to Broadway, it takes that pressure off, because it's like, that's just one facet of this many faceted career, and you're working in the arts, you're being a creative person, and that's a little bit more flowy and non-linear than, like, say,
creative
exactly, as opposed to maybe like your friends who are like going to be an accountant. That's like a very clear linear type thing. When you're an artist and creative, it's going to be weird. It's going to be
it's all
flowing.
squiggles.
It's squiggles, baby. That's right, Diego. That's it. It's squiggly. So know where your landmark squiggles are, because that's so important.
You heard it here first from Kristin Stokes. The path is squiggles.
It is squiggles.
Thank you
so
much
for joining us. Where can you mentioned your Instagram is Chitty Balone. Where are all the places people can find you, and also your class?
Absolutely. So sign up for my class. That you can go to theaterworksusa.org, I believe. Put the correct thing in the show notes. I feel like I think
the full link will be in the show notes.
Yeah.
That's down there.
So definitely, check that out. Numero uno. My Instagram is what I'm the most active on, and that's at Chitty Balone, CHITTY _BALONE. And then I'm also on Twitter at KStoked. But that's kind of where to find me.
So go listen to the Chitty Chats. Go sign up for the awesome class. And thank you so much again for joining us on the podcast.
Of course.
It's been
Thank
a
you for
pleasure.
having me. Thank you.
All And that's it for this episode of The Half-Blood Report. 2 interviews were released today, so make sure you check the other one out if you haven't already. You can follow the show on Twitter at HalfReport. You can also find us on Instagram at The Half-Blood Report, and our email is thehalfbloodreport@gmail.com. We also have a website, thehalfbloodreport.com. And please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We read and respond to those on our seasonal mailbag episodes. You can buy our merch on our Teespring shop. There's a link in the description to that. The current merch is drawn by @MallowMocha on Instagram, and it's really amazing, and you can use the code OUTRO for $3 off. Also, you can order any book from our bookshop affiliate page, which can be found on our website. Thanks to all of you for listening. That said, it's time for credits. Our theme music is actually by my co-host Diego. I'm Samuel, and I do our editing. This is the Half-Blood Report podcast, the only HBR that matters. Survive till next week.
Hi, my name is Kristin Stokes. I played Annabeth Chase in The Lightning Thief, the Percy Jackson musical. And even if I was hit by a bus that had Furies on it with on the side advertised the Half-Blood Report, I would still not listen to it.